Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, and welcome to another My Top 10. Now, last year when I launched the channel, in the year of 2024, did my top 10 of 2023, but I didn't do a worst uh, top 10 of 2023. And I was, toying with the idea if I do one this year for the year previously, and then I wasn't going to do one. Then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I've seen a lot of content creators over the last few weeks starting to put their best and worst out, and I thought, why the hell not? Why don't I do my worst? And my worst top 10 that I've selected, they basically are films that I've watched. Some of them might be films that other people haven't watched, like the big budget, the more headlining films. Some of them might be like on the lower end, but they're still, got a lot of hype. And then when I watched them, I was very, very disappointed in them. And some of them, as you can imagine, are probably some of the flops and the blockbusters that we know of. So, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 worst films of 2024. So, where do I start? So, the first film on my list is a film that there was a one prior to this. It is part of a well known, much loved franchise. And the film that came out prior to this one was just, for me, a nostalgia ride. It hit you in the heart, and it was just full of great action, great special effects, amazing story. It was like passing the torch to the next generation, and it had a lot of sentimental elements and a lot of amazing nostalgic, driven drive to it. Now, this one, the next chapter in the new, I guess, generation of this franchise is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, when it came to the first, Ghostbusters Afterlife, like I've just mentioned, this film, I was really excited to see the direction that they were going to go in with this one. And it had a lot of opportunities, a lot of amazing directions it could have gone in. And I feel as if it isn't a wasted opportunity. What they did with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I was very, very disappointed in. And, the original Ghostbusters, just like in the Afterlife, when they make their entrance right at the end, was more or less a cameo, but it had more meaning to me. In that movie, it felt as if they were passing the torch on to the next generation. In this one, all of the cameos, in my opinion, felt forced. It felt as if there was no reason to have Venkman in there. There was no reason to have any of those characters in there. They could have just focused on the new generation. But, there was one character in this who was played by McKenna Grace, who was Phoebe Spengler. She was the main focus throughout this, with this kind of, talking of this love story with this ghost character. And then you had the Finn Wolfhard character, Trevor Spengler, who basically spent an entire movie up in the damn attic looking for Slimer. And there was just no point. They even hinted at Janine finally putting on the Ghostbusters outfit and kicking some ghost ass, and it went and fell flat on its arse. And as for the main villain, which was teased in the trailers, this demon-like frozen ghost entity who looked badass in the trailers, looked badass in the poster, he literally shows up in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the movie and is taken out like that. All the hype, all the build up, all the drive to end up with nothing. So that is why I'm unfortunately Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is my number 10. Now, my number 9, this film, the more I thought about it, I got more and more angry. I got more and more frustrated with, because it is, for me, one of the most overhyped films of the year. And I'm talking about Under Paris. The tagline, for this Under Paris, it's about this shark that somehow has ended up in Paris in the Seine River. There's, this triathlon race about to happen. You've got these, the start of this movie started off really strong. I love the beginning of this movie where you had, the main character and the main actress in this movie. Sorry. You had Sophia, who was the main character at the beginning, fighting us off this shark who basically wiped out that team in the middle of the ocean. That shark disappeared. Somehow this shark has ended up in the Seine River in Paris. It's bigger, it's stronger, it's smarter. And then you've got just this cat and mouse game with the local police in the river. And you've got this, this Greenpeace type organization that's trying to stop the shark or free the shark, and it's just idiotic. It really, really was. In them characters just pissed me off more and more and more. And when one of them, sorry, I don't care about spoiler, when one of them got fucking chomped in the underground, in the catacombs of Paris, in the water, it was the best part of that movie. And the biggest thing that I got frustrated with is the fact that they went on and on saying this film is as good as Jaws. This film is the new Jaws. I would love the smoke, the crack pipe that these people that are saying that, because I don't see it. I just think it's a very basic B movie with special, okay special effect, and then some shoddy special effects. And then, of course, even some of the shark, fights and kills weren't that exciting. So for me, this is very much overblown and overhyped. And there's no way this is like Jaws 2. So that is why this is my number 9. So next is a film that basically put me to sleep. This is a film that I had seen advertised, and I thought, oh, this could be an interesting film. I like the idea, I like the concept. But then when I went into this movie, I was very much like this all the way through the film. Waiting for something that happened, waiting for a moment that would open me and go, oh, the shit's getting good. And this film did not do any of that for me. This film basically was a film that ended up being a concept movie. That's all this movie is. So at number 8, I'm talking about Trap. So this is the latest film by M. Night Shyamalan, or Shalading Dong. I can never pronounce his name. M. Night Shyamalan. I think I said his name right. So honestly, this film is meant to be a psychological thriller that is about, Josh Hartnett plays a serial killer who is trying to avoid a police blockade, and he's attending a concert with his daughter. It just happens to be that Selka Night Shyamalan, who is obviously M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, is the other co-star in this, who has an amazing singing voice. And basically, I think this movie was just put together to show her amazing talent as a singer, and to, the whole plot just dragged. The whole story dragged. It was probably the last 10 minutes where this really got interesting. But the time you got to the end, I was physically and mentally bored, because literally nothing happens throughout. There's no kills, there's no, you know, amazing moments like that you're like startled by or shocked by. It's just a drag fest. So that is why this is my number 8. Now, the next movie, which is my number 7, everybody knows I'm a huge vampire film buff. I love vampire lore. I love vampire cinema. I love just, you know, I'm more into the more older gothic vampire movies and some of the modern movies. And obviously, thanks to Twilight, you know, vampires and their ability to frighten on us and being terrifying has kind of went to the, you know, went to the bye. It went bye-bye. And now, when you think of vampires, you just think of Twilight. You think of what's the other one? Vampire Diaries, and you think of True Blood, like these good, wholesome vampires with a handful of bad vampires. And what kind of kicked that off was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if I'm honest, way back. I like when vampires used to be terrifying. You were frightened of them. You were frightened to go out at night and all of that stuff. Like the good old days, like Lost Boys, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and things of that nature. And there was one mini series that came out way back when called Salem's Lot. Now, Salem's Lot is based off the Stephen King book. And, you know, when this was first announced many years ago, the you know, a reboot of Salem's Lot, I very much was excited because I thought, you know, it came out late in the 1970s. It could do with a refresh, a repaint, a reboot, and if they did it right, it could have been an instant classic. Unfortunately, unlike what Francis Ford Coppola did with Dracula and did like a bit of reboot, retelling of the tale, in many ways by adding Vlad the Impaler and Romanian law to it. This was just your stereotypical soft reboot with no real excitement to it, no real scares to it. No, you know, it was quite disappointing in many ways. The first half an hour of this movie is the best of the movie, where you see, you know, when you see, you know, the house and you see Mr. Barlow, you know, take on one of the kids and kills the kid, and then the kid becomes a vampire. Those particular scenes are very good. But after that, it just seems to go flat. I feel it was rushed. I feel it had so much interference and so much misdirection. And this thing was in development hell for a long time. And it was meant to go to theaters, and then it ended up going to HBO Max. So straight away, the nail literally was in the coffin for this. So what could have been an amazing instant classic, unfortunately, ended up being a disappointment. So there we go. That is my number 7. At my number 6, we have none other than a film that I think everybody who got to see it was disappointed in. Sony have had a horrendous year this year when it comes to their superhero properties. Of course, I have to be talking about Madam Web. And Madam Web, you know, I did see this. I didn't see it in theaters. I waited till it came out on streaming, and I was contemplating on doing a review. And in the end, I said, why drag myself through doing a review for this? So, Madam Web, it's everything the critics are saying, it's everything that the fans are saying. It is pretty much a disappointment of a movie. You know, it had so much potential, and then it's not till the very end of the movie that you got to see all the girls in the Spider Woman outfits. And it's like you had to wait till then to showcase what could have been so much fun and so much potential. But hey ho, the Sony universe, apparently the Sony Spider-Man universe, because it's had one kind of failure after failure, it's apparently that has been now stopped. It's now, been discontinued by Sony. So I think the only things that they have going for them now is the new Spider-Man 4, which Tom Holland mentioned is happening, and of course the third entry in the Into the Spider-Verse trilogy. So it's a sad thing. I do know that Venom: The Last Dance was a pretty good movie. I haven't seen that yet. People I do know said, it's on par with the first and the second one. So that for me isn't really a bad thing. It's a good thing if they've kind of kept the standard of those movies. And as long as they're fun and entertaining, which Madam Web wasn't that for me. I've not seen Craven the Hunter yet. I know one person who has, and he enjoyed it. Other people that I've talked to who have seen it, they said as well it's not that bad a movie, but what lets it down is the shoddy CGI. So who knows? So anyway, moving on to the next movie in my top 10, which is, now this movie I did do a review of, and my other friend DJ Anubis also did a review of this, and literally, honestly, I was just like with Trap, it's a ball fest, and it is literally, this must have just been a payday for Mr. Nicolas Cage, because I'm talking about a movie called Arcadian. Now, Arcadian is very much under like the same kind of story of, say, A Quiet Place. You've got these creatures that come out at night and they've started wreaking havoc, and if based in a post-apocalyptic world. You've got Nicolas Cage with two sons. One son has like a crush on a girl that lives in it with a family across the way. And one night when he kind of forgets the time, events happen, and basically these creatures wreak havoc. And it's just, it had so much potential to be a really fun action horror thriller, and it just misses the mark so much. And another thing that lets this down is that the creatures, when they are revealed, they look like these woolly friggin' dog things. They look like Goofy. They look like Goofy from Disney, and they're just not a good look. They're not terrifying. It just ends up being quite a disappointment. And by the end of the movie, you just didn't care if anybody died. You didn't. So there you have it. There's nothing much more I can say about Arcadian, because there's just nothing much going for it. Now we're down to, I believe, my number 5. Yes, so Ghostbusters was number 10. Under Paris was number 9. Number 8 was Trap. Number 7 was Salem's Lot. Oh, number 6 was Madam Web. Number 5, was Arcadian. So we're down to the final 4, right? So the next one in my list is a film that I was so excited for, because just the idea of this is amazing. And they've never done a film of this perspective before, in my eyes. And it is seeing murders and seeing kills and seeing them from the murderer's perspective. Seeing a murderer, a killer, a psychopath, going out on the hunt and taking down his victims. The idea alone sounds brilliant. Unfortunately, how it was executed in this movie, it destroyed the movie. It was a slow burn. It just didn't grip you. And just like with Trap, I was bored. I was waiting for things to happen. When I was thinking of this murderer, I was thinking him, can you not run? It literally is a movie about walking. And I'm talking about in a violent nature. Now, a violent nature was hyped at being this amazing new concept for a horror movie with, like I've mentioned, seeing it from the murderer's perspective. And what you ended up getting was basically a walk in nature. Not in a violent nature. It was in a walk of nature. You literally got the killer walking in slow motion around this forest area, the woodlands like that, with his weapon in his hand, literally just observing people. And then when he does eventually go to kill them, the kills aren't really that exciting. You know, surely, you look back at the Friday the 13th movies, imagine one of those movies from Jason Voorhees' perspective, where he's just going 10 to the dozen with his axe, he's charging through the forest, and he's going fucking hack, hack, kill, kill. You're getting on of that shit. And then the way the film ends, you sit back and you're like, is that it? Like, is that it? Basically the killer goes back to where he comes from and basically goes back to sleep. And it's like, really? And apparently this film's done that well that they are now doing, a second one. Where they can take this man, or this killer, and where they can, drive it next, I do not know. But In a Violent Nature is my number 5. Yeah. See, I'm not fucking pissed off. I don't even which order I'm in now. So next is a film. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So we're down to the last 3, I believe. I've probably fucked up the order. I'm probably getting this all wrong because these films are just basically, they're pissing me off. So next in the list we have, of course, Joker Folie à Deux. Now, after the success of the first Joker, which was meant to be a standalone movie, I generally believe they should have kept to that. But for whatever reason, Warner Brothers, like every bunch of studio executives where they've got, had a $1 billion hit, it's won an Oscar. Let's hoist some shit at the wall. Let's hoist some money at the wall and make a sequel. And they give it to Todd Phillips and they said, probably, do whatever you want to do. Just make us a sequel. And he came up with this idea for this new artistic vision of this psychological musical, and it fell flat on its arse. It was such a disappointment. And, I didn't care that it was going to be a musical. I found that idea slightly fascinating, if I'm completely honest with you. But for me, when you think of a musical is there where the music is there to enhance the story you're trying to tell on screen. And the problem with this is that when the musical numbers hit and when they were there, they were just totally out of place. The songs themselves and what was being displayed on screen wasn't interesting, wasn't fascinating, wasn't anything that excited you, and basically it dragged and ruined the film. Lady Gaga in this, I hated her version of Harley Quinn. She was just a spoiled brat bitch. She was a super fan that basically was getting into the head of Arthur Fleck and basically screwing him up even more. And when you think of the Joker character, you think of him as this over-the-top psychotic individual, and they could have literally have done a psychological movie musical that showed Arthur Fleck going more and more into the madness, showing him going deeper, deeper down that rabbit hole to the point where he's completely lost and he's completely psychotic and he becomes the Joker we all know and love. But they didn't do that. They did this film where everything that happened in the first Joker movie meant nothing. The first Joker movie after this one basically becomes obsolete. And that is the biggest crime this film did. So that is why this is my number 3. Am I up to number 3? Yes. Comment down below where the hell I am. So this next film, at number 2, I'm just going to double check. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Yep, I'm at number 2. Having to keep checking because these films. So this next film is a film that I always have a laugh with Mr. Tony of the Dead, who loves, to sponsor my Terror Street Toys. The channel, the shopping on eBay and website. He loves to, mention that in his videos. He's a good friend of mine. And he knows how much I love this movie. He knows how much this movie means to me. It was probably the most stupidest, boringest. Just why did it have to be made horror movies of the year? And I'm talking about the one and only Night Swim. Night Swim was just so just yuck. I can't even, talk much about it because I just don't like this movie. It just, the concept of it was interesting. How it was executed poorly. And, about a haunted swimming pool. Everything now has to be a horror film. That's what I've noticed. There's a lot of new AI horror films coming out. That's the main thing at the minute. You've got Megan. You had that other one that was called Afraid, about people trapped in a house. I believe later on at some time this year, there's a horror movie coming out with the same concept, except that up in outer space, and they're trapped in outer space, the AI goes haywire and it starts killing off the crew. That's coming out sometime later this year. There always has to be a theme or anything that they can grab their hand on, the turn into a horror movie. You've got Imaginary. That was just another disappointment. There are some really amazing highlighted horror movies on my top 10, 2 in particular. There was also another one I didn't mention, The First Omen. That's amazing. They did a one similar called Immaculate. I think it's called. That's okay, but not as good as The First Omen. Night Swim was just total disappointment. The cast in this were okay. It's just the whole idea and the story and it just how it was executed, and it just really pissed us off. And even when you got to see the spirit in this, the CGI and how it was executed wasn't scary. The world's just CGI mad now. It's like you either get really good CGI or you get really shitty CGI. And unfortunately, this had all of that in abundance. And I just, no. Just a here, no. So here we go at number 1. It is the film on everybody's lips. We have to go to The Crow. Now, I am not the biggest Crow fan, and that's not because I don't like The Crow. It's the fact that I don't really gravitate towards it as much as other people. I love the original one, the original movie with Brandon Lee. I think nothing can top that movie, and I think it's not just because of Brandon Lee and the circumstances that involved him in that movie. I think overall it's just a pretty good movie. It's just a great movie, great cast, well acted, Love the cinematography. I love the gothicness of it. I love the hauntingness of it. It's just a great, great movie. Now, they decided to do this modern version of that story. And for me, there were elements in this story that made no sense at all. There were elements of this movie that, for me, I was very frustrated with. And I think anyone who is a fan of the original can understand your frustrations with this. One thing that I did not like the lead actress in this. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm not saying that she, she's a terrible actress, but I just hated her version of the character in this. I just did not like her at all. FK Twigs played Shelley Webster, and for me, I just did not gravitate towards her. I just didn't gravitate towards her story, her character. Now, Bill Skarsgård's had a mixed year. I loved Boy Kills World with him. I thought he did great in that. And I've always said it's not him as an actor, it's the roles he gets and who he gets to work with as a director and the script. Now, Nosferatu, I've got still to this day, I've got mixed opinions of it. It's not terrible. It's not a bad movie at all. It's very much a dark, gothic horror, but there's elements of it that I just couldn't get away with. The pacing issues, they focused on a lot more characters than focus on the main three, and I think that took a lot away from a potentially great film, making it even better than it is. But as for The Crow, the script's terrible in this. The story just is terrible in this. I did not like what they did with Eric Draven in this. So I'm not talking about his look, I'm talking about his character. So he is basically an angel or a demon of vengeance. He's brought back from the dead after he is horrifically murdered. His girlfriend is horrifically murdered. You then discover in the movie that she's not as innocent as she appeared and is meant to be, and that pissed me off. And it's like he decided to continue to pursue getting his revenge for their deaths. And in the pursuit of doing all of that, there's other people that aren't involved with the villains or anything, especially the opera house scene. He's going around killing innocent waiters and he's hiding decapitated heads into the crowd. And it made no sense because you were meant to be like an angel of vengeance. You're wanting to be back there to revenge the death of the person that you've loved and lost. And you are exactly doing the things that happen to you to other people. And so that, for me, takes away from the pureness of that character in a lot of ways. And then right at the end of the movie, after he's done everything to save, get revenge, to, find inner peace and all of this stuff, what ends up happening? Shelley, the woman that he was trying to, revenge, who is dragged to hell, she suddenly is resurrected and is back alive and he is dead. And it's like, what was the point? Where were the stakes? Why did all of that happen? Why were people killed when they didn't have to be killed? Kill the bad guys that done wrong to you, that is fair enough. But there's just elements of this that knocked me. And it's just such a confusing, frustrating movie. And it's got nothing on the original. Nothing. I love the original. I love the second movie, The Crow. The third one I've never actually watched because I hear it's that bad, but I guarantee you, probably if I watched it now after watching the reboot, it's probably an Oscar-winning movie. So, what can I say? This is another film that was frustrating, annoying, and it's not down to Bill Skarsgård. It's down to the direction, it's down to the story, it's down to the script, it's down to the characters' motivations and how they were changed and twisted. And you even have Bill Skarsgård in interviews after this has been released saying that he got frustrated on set, frustrated with his direction as a character. And, you know, he even mentioned these. And the next thing, the director is that pissed and is that annoyed that he's even slagging Bill Skarsgård off and saying, no, what he's saying is wrong. He's been misquoted. He hadn't been misquoted at all. He was just being honest about what his experience was on the set of this film by this director. And the director is that desperate to just not cut, just to admit that you've made a bad movie, that you have to go and badmouth your actor. Bill Skarsgård's a good actor. It's the roles and the scripts and all of that screw this movie up. So as far as I'm concerned, The Crow is the worst film of 2024. It was, a huge blockbuster, put in a big spot, and it just bombed. There's other bombs out there, the Borderland movies, not seen it, don't have any interest in seeing it. But this has been my top 10 worst films of 2024. Sorry if I come across crazy, overhyped, but that's how frustrated and annoying that these films have gotten me in 2024. But this has been, like I say, my top 10. What's your top 10 of worst movies of 2024? Let me know in the comments below. And let's hope that 2025 is a better year for movies. There's only 4 movies as of yet that have got me interested in. One of them is the John Wick spin-off Ballerina. The second one is the Return of the Living Dead reboot or / sequel. Well, don't know quite yet. 28 years later, and the Fantastic Four: First Steps. They're my 4, most anticipated movies of 2025 so far. Also, let me know in the comment below what your most anticipated films of 2025 is as well. But have a good day. This has been just my top 10. Keep loving your movies. Keep on loving all things entertainment. And I'll catch us all at the next one.